With this workflow, you can have your Slack bot or agent create your calendar events for yourself and attendees. The bot systematically checks your calendar for availability, recommends open time slots, acquires attendees' information from your Google Contacts account, and asks you whether you'd like to create a Zoom meeting link as well, all in one seamless flow to make sure your events are scheduled correctly. If any information is missing, the agent will ask you for additional details so you never have to worry about events being scheduled inappropriately. All right, let's take a look at how this bot actually works. So we'll come over here to Slack. You can use Telegram or other messaging platforms. Just be aware that the bot is set up for using memory in Slack. It's specifically Slack threads. So if you're going to use this for some other platform, you will need to adjust the memory and how that actually captures your messages to the bot. But let's just go ahead and do something along the lines of like, please schedule me tomorrow to meet with Diana at 9 a.m. And that's probably good enough. We'll close that so we can take a look at it when it comes in. Anyway, what it's going to do, it's going to take my information. I can either do text or a message, a voice message to the bot. It's going to check for what information I have already given it, if it has any past information. It's then going to check my calendar for my availability. So if I had said, hey, schedule me to meet her on Tuesday, and I didn't give a time or anything like that, it'll look for all my open slots on Tuesday. It's going to make a recommendation. Since I told it a time, it's going to check to see if I'm open in that time. And then if I have any blocks or anything, so let's go ahead and check. So here, tomorrow, May 25th, I'm recording this on the 24th, so the date is right. 9 a.m. It's scheduling me for 30 minutes. That's because it's a meeting. You know, generally business meetings are about half an hour. You can always adjust that in your prompt if you want. It says my time slot is blocked until 10 a.m. If you'd like to do another meeting, I'd still prefer to do it at 9. It can, just let me know. Let's double check real quick. Am I actually blocked? 7 to 10, I am blocked, so it was right. So let's just, whatever. Let's go ahead. Go ahead and schedule it at 9 a.m. anyway. All right. So now what it's going to do is I've told it when to do it. I've confirmed that I want that 9 a.m. block. It's going to come down here to this path because I have an attendee. If I was doing it just myself, it would just go ahead and schedule it right away. But because I have an attendee, it's going to attempt to look up her contact in my Google Contacts. Now, my wife is not in my Google Contacts as her name. She has a pet name, and so it's not going to find her email. And there we go. So it's ready to schedule at 9 a.m. Wasn't able to find her email. It did find her a name, but her email's not in there. I must have another Diana in there. But if you could provide her email, I'll finalize it right away. Sure. And so I'm not going to give her email. I'll give one of my backups. So her email is this. gamerpreneur.com. So we'll just send that. All right. So now that I've given the email, because I wasn't able to find it in Google Contacts, it's now going to ask me, how do I want this meeting to be scheduled? Is this a Zoom meeting? Is it an in-person meeting? And that's just so that, hey, I want to make a Zoom call with so-and-so. It'll do it. I don't have to like make the Zoom call on my own anymore. I can just tell the bot to do it. All right, so yep, here we go. Sunday, May 25th, 9 a.m., 30 minutes. Would you like to set this up as a Zoom meeting? Yeah, yes, please. All right, again, natural language. I don't have to worry too much about, instructing it to like, yes, please set the Zoom meeting. I've gone through a lot of trial and error to try to get these to work. I'll admit, even while I was recording this a few times, like it kept breaking. So I've had to really strengthen up these prompts. And so it'll be scheduling that Zoom meeting for me. It's going to create the meeting in Zoom. It's then going to put it onto my calendar, and it should respond here in just a second. So this one might take a little bit because it does have to make it in Zoom. Boom. So it is scheduled. The Zoom meeting will be available for your convenience. I don't know if it actually has the Zoom link, but we'll see. Let's come over to my calendar now. And there, 9 a.m., my meeting. I got a Zoom link. It's got a description, 30 minutes meeting scheduled with Diana, Sunday, May 25th, despite an existing calendar overlap. It made sure to let me know that. And the link to Zoom, so if I click this, it'll actually open up Zoom. See, it's a Zoom link and everything. So perfect. It's exactly what I want. It's called Meeting with Diana. If you give it more detail when you're talking to it, it'll obviously do it a little bit better. As always, you can download this N8N workflow for free from my free school community, where we give away over 30 different business-focused workflows ranging from social media posting bots, executive assistants, lead and email scrapers, and more, with new free workflows coming out every week, along with tutorial videos, how-to guides, and a community of automation-focused business owners all looking to collaborate and grow their businesses with AI-powered automations. You can also join our advanced community for weekly tech support calls, marketing and business growth discussions, as well as getting to pick my brain on N8N, AI automations, or business in general. So let's go ahead and actually take a look at this bot step by step now. We'll go node by node, kind of show you how it works. Just overall, make sure that you set up your credentials. All right, so there's OpenAI nodes here, here, here. You want to make sure you set up your credentials or use a different model that you prefer. I've got a Google Calendar node here. You want to set up Google Calendar. I'll put the links for how to do the OpenAI and the Google Cloud Console and Postgres and all the other credentials that you're going to need, Slack and setting up Slack bots. I'll put all those in the description below. And I'll probably have a card or something for a bunch of them as well. So if you click on those, you can see how to set up your credentials. But let's go ahead and just go back here. So this first section here is kind of standard for accessing any of my bots. It's a path that comes through Slack. It checks for prior messages and session IDs, and I'll go through it step by step. It checks whether we sent a voice message or a text message. It then checks for any past conversations we've had with the bot, and then it passes all of that information forward into the actual bot, which is kind of this section over here. All right, so Slack. Again, you want to set up your Slack credentials. I'm just checking for any messages in a channel, so any event in my channel, making sure to ignore the bot as well. All right, so when I send a message, it sends it here. I've got this code node that is checking for how I am presenting the message to the rest of the system. Is this a top level message, or is this a continued conversation in a thread? And so it checks for that, and then it passes the session ID that it just checked for, that I just created. With this code node, it passes the user ID, the text of the message that this user is sending, whether it's text or if there's no text. So if I sent an actual text message to the bot, it'll track that. Otherwise, it'll keep that blank. If it's blank, it'll then check if I have any files attached. So if an M4A, an audio file, it's checking for the timestamp for the message, thread timestamp if it exists, and it will log whether this is a thread or not. All right, then we have a switch here, and the switch is checking for if it's a voice message, an M4A, or if there is text. So the text field that we had just had, if it's not empty, that means there's text in it. And so it'll pass it through the text path. So it's either going to go the audio path or it's going to go the voice or the text path. If you do both, you might actually break the bot. I don't know if I've ever set it up to combine it properly that way. Just be aware it's either sending a voice message or a text message. All right, so if it's a voice message, we're using an HTTP request node to pull the private download URL from Slack. And then we're just making sure we set up our Slack credentials. You're going to do your Slack OAuth 2 credential, not a bot credential. It's got to be your Slack OAuth 2 credential. And again, all that's discussed in my video on how to set up Slack bots and Slack credentials. What you're also going to want to do is you want to have a response turned on. Response format will be file, and we're outputting a binary. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're passing that into an OpenAI transcription node. And so this is a resource of audio, an operation of transcribe a recording, and the input is the binary that we just got from the previous node. All right, and then if you do text, we do this edit field node. We're just going to map text, the text from the code, and we're just going to call it text. And that way they match up together because the OpenAI node is going to output a field called text. And I need it to match it for both in order to kind of continue forward. We have another set field node here that we're just going to map a bunch of information. The text that we got, we're just going to call text. We're going to map the user from the code node. We're going to map the timestamp, the original timestamp from Slack, from the code node here. We're going to map the thread timestamp if we have one, and then the session ID, which is mapping it. And so that would be the user with the timestamp, either the top level timestamp, we just call it top, or the thread timestamp. And so whichever one it is, we want to make sure that gets pushed forward. And so the memory is always being put into and responding to and mapping to the right session ID, what you're actually talking to the bot about, not just anything. All right, and so that's what we're doing with that set field. We then pass that information. All the information is going to be passed over to this merge node on this top line, but we're also going to check whether the session ID contains the word top. If it does contain the word top, we're going to skip this Postgres memory node here. If it does not contain the word top, then it'll contain a number, which will be the thread timestamp, in which case it will pull the information based on the session ID, which includes the user and that thread timestamp. And it's going to pull all the past conversations you've had with the bot so that the bot has that prior context. Everything is then going to be passed through this code node here. This code node logs all of the messages, both user and bot, and everything is given a timestamp when I input it into the Postgres memory, and that's done at the end of all of the chains in order to be able to make sure all of the prior messages are in order. That way the bot has the context in time sequential order. That way it knows what's going on. And then we make sure we pass all of that information, all of the prior messages and the conversation chain to the bot. Prior conversation chain is not so relevant for this. I have it for all my other bots as well. That way they can be integrated into a single tool. Just be aware of that. All right, all of that information is then passed into this merge node. Everything's being matched according to the session ID. So again, the edit fields has the session ID that's pulled from this code node back here. And the session IDs are also mapped into the Postgres memory. That way everything is mapped and added and combined together. We're going to keep all matches, and then we're going to merge both inputs merged together. Okay, that's how all of my bots pretty much work in passing information from Slack to the actual agent. And then we actually have the agent here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of that information. We're going to pass it in here. We're going to give it a current request and the previous conversation. And then we're going to run it through this system prompt here. And do note that we do have the specific output format required with an output parser. All right. So we're going to run it through here. We're going to take all of the information, and we want it to extract the current user request, which we give it, all the previous conversations, which we give it. We're looking for attendees, so the names of everybody we're saying we want to include in the event. We want to include any information about whether this is a Zoom meeting, and then the start time and day of the event, the duration of the event, and then a title that is created for the event. And this bot will create a title for it. All right, it'll return undefined for anything that doesn't have a value, or a Zoom meeting. It was either going to be marked as yes, no, or ask. All right, so if you say that you wanted a phone call, it's going to mark the Zoom meeting as no. If you say you want a Zoom meeting, it's going to mark it as yes. If you don't indicate any way, shape, or form of what you want the meeting to be, it's going to mark it as ask, and then that'll be processed later in the bot. So we just have our extraction rules, how it's pulling the information. It's going to pull it from the input, the current user request from the input. It's going to pull the previous conversations from the input. It's going to pull the attendees from our inputs as well, and it's going to format it the right way. And then it needs to try to format it first name, last name. And the reason for that is when we pull from Google Contacts, we're going to try to get first name, last name so it can match correctly. All right, then Zoom meeting is either yes, no, or ask. And if our latest message to the bot is either yes, no, and the previous message contained a Zoom-related question, the most previous message contained a Zoom-related question, it's going to interpret that as a response to the question of whether this is about a Zoom or not. And so it'll mark it yes or no. And so just be aware that you can, again, use natural language. You don't have to be, yes, I want a Zoom meeting. You can say, when it says, do you want a Zoom meeting? And you say yes, it should interpret that as a yes for that question. All right, and so we just take, it's looking for our most recent confirmation from our earlier messages, if there's any sort of conflict in the timing, in order to create the time and day for the bot. If there is a time and day, I'll explain what happens in a minute, but this is how it determines not to go down that check availability path again. It's looking for whether we've confirmed a time and day. If so, it sets that information here in this JSON. All right, and so it's looking for a clear calendar day and a time that is explicitly confirmed or accepted. All right, and so then it formats it in time day format in this way, and that's because this is what Zoom requires in order to be uploaded. Duration is, again, remember the bot recommends, a 30-minute meeting, a 1-hour meeting, whatever. Either you confirm that or you can say, oh no, I want that to be 20 minutes. Then it'll mark it as 20 minutes. All right, so otherwise it returns all that as undefined. It creates a title for the event. We give it some output formatting as examples what it's supposed to do, give it some things it's not supposed to do. So never return Zoom meeting as undefined. Do not assign start date time unless it is clearly confirmed. No vague meeting titles. Don't list email addresses as attendees. They need to be names. All right, and then do not use 1 hour in duration. It needs to give it in minutes, and that's for Zoom. All right, so then we give it several examples and then an output. And so same thing we have here in our output parser, current user requests, or user current request, previous conversations, attendees, Zoom meeting, start day and time, duration, and title. That's all that it's looking for. All right, that information is then passed to this text classifier. The text classifier gets our current request, our previous conversations, our start time and day, and our duration. And what it's ultimately looking for is it's looking for whether or not we have a clear time and day and duration. If not, it's going to go down this check availability path. If we have a clear time and day and duration, it's then going to check the current user request and the previous conversations in order to determine whether this is an event just for yourself or if it's an event that's supposed to have other people on it. So yeah, you can say, hey, schedule me to read that book that I got yesterday at the library on Tuesday, right? And so that's clearly a solo event. It'll be able to do solo events. All right, so we have these descriptions of what it's looking for. Check availability is looking for specifically if start time and day or duration is undefined. If either of those are undefined, it'll go up to the check availability path. If it's a schedule solo event, it's looking for solo tasks. So use this path only if it's they've confirmed the time and day and the event is for the user alone, no attendees involved. And then the last one is if there are attendees involved. So I've confirmed it at the time and day, and it involves one or more attendees. That's the important part. And our system prompt pretty much reiterates all of that. It's checking the availability. It's going to schedule, here's the 3 paths that can go down: check availability, schedule solo event, or schedule event with attendees. And our classification logic, we start off with mandatory guardrail of if start time and day is undefined or duration is undefined, it's going to go up that check availability path because it needs to have that information, especially if you're going to be doing any sort of real calendaring. Right? You can't just say, schedule me for Tuesday at 2. Well, for how long? It needs to make the event, right? And then if they're both defined, it then goes to the next steps. It's going to read your messages. It's going to classify whether you're trying to schedule something for yourself or for other people. It's going to analyze that attendees factor. If it's only you, it's going to schedule it as a solo event. Otherwise, it's going to go down the other path. And so it just kind of reiterates those categories, gives it more detail, and gives it some what not to do's. Don't classify solo events or with attendees unless you have everything you need. Do not treat suggestions as confirmed. So if it says, how about 9 a.m., you're like, how am I looking at 2? Well, that's not a confirmation, right? It needs to check your time block at 2. Are you blocked then as well? Never assume attendee presence without clear evidence, meaning a name or an email of some type. Don't guess multiple categories, and no vague terms. All right, so then it's going to pick a path. So we'll go up the first path. It's going to check availability. We have an agent that is going to check your Google Calendar. So you make sure you set up your Google Calendar credentials. Again, I do have a video about that in the description below. All right, so this one, it's going to pull our previous conversations and our current message to the bot, and it's going to run it through this system prompt here. The system prompt is going to, first it's going to call, that's not the tool name, there we go. It's going to call the calendar. It's going to check whether you've had any day suggestions. If you said on Tuesday, it's going, I have a mapping field down here that maps out all the next 14 days. So if you say Tuesday, it's going to know what day Tuesday is and be able to call the bot. but it's going to check your calendar, and it's going to check for all blocked time slots on that day. It's checking for all events on that calendar for that day already. And that's what this guy's really doing. He's not checking at 2 o'clock for you on Tuesday. He's checking everything for Tuesday, and then he's going to pass that information on to the next bot. And so all this code is really just to check for that. And it's checking for, I don't even know if most of this is important anymore because of the logic that I have in it. But it's checking for that time block, and it's going to output the day objects on the day. So if it's checking on May 27th, it's going to have your start window. That's the start window of when your calendar says your day begins. So make sure your calendar is actually set up right. And when your day ends, your window end, it's going to give you the events that are currently scheduled on that. So I have one event here we see. Start the 27th, starts at 11 a.m. And it ends at 12 p.m. All right, and I'm minus 7 GMT is my time zone. So that's what the -7 means. And then we check another date. It checked the 28th. It didn't see any events. It checked the 29th. It doesn't see any events. And that's the example that we give it. All right, and don't skip calling the calendar. That is so weird. I thought I deleted those. All right, so make sure there was no extra Bradford calendars in here. Okay, we should be good. And then what it does is it's going to call the calendar tool. You're going to want to make sure that your calendar, you have a calendar tool. I'll include a calendar agent as well with this that you'll want to set up because you'll actually need that down here for this bot. But this one's just your Google Calendar. You just set that up, normal credentials. I have the AI determine the after and the before timeframes because it's trying to pull everything on my calendar for that date. It's if you say, hey, I want to schedule something next week, how am I looking? It's going to check multiple days next week. You don't have to be super specific to get this to work. But then it's going to output a structured JSON as its output. It's going to include the title that we got previously, or it's going to create the title. It's going to output the original text that we sent it, so our user message. It's going to output a description for the event. The additional notes may include the duration of the event or what date you specifically asked for, but even though there might be a conflict, it's going to give you additional information. And that's going to be passed on to the next bot to give you some insights into this event that it tried to check out in your calendar. And then it's going to output the duration of the event as well as any of those events that it finds on your calendar. All right, and then it gets passed through this code node. This code node is one big old block of code. I don't know how to code. ChatGPT made this for me. But ultimately what it does is it's going to output information about when you are blocked. So it's going to output it, Tuesday you're blocked from this time to this time. And then it's also going to include how much time until the next event that day, if there is another event scheduled. And I do that because say I'm blocked 10 to 11 and then noon to 1. And then I want to put an event on there for say 2 hours. If you don't have this time until next event block, the agent actually tries to schedule you at 11. So even though I'm 10 to 11 and then noon to 1, it's going to try to schedule me at 11, even though I only have 1 hour and I want a 2-hour block. It's going to try because like, oh, the time spot's open. So I needed to include some sort of logic in there for to actually have it check when you actually have availability. All right. So that's what that's in there for. All of that information is then passed to this AI agent. And this AI agent gets all of that information in here. So we get our previous messages, our current messages, the event title, the AI's additional notes that it just generated, the event description for the event, the session ID of the whole session that we're currently operating in Slack, the time slots that are currently booked, as well as the duration of the event that it was supposed to be making here. We then have the AI assistant structure all of that information into a message back to us to let us know what time slot we have available, what it recommends, how long it recommends the event be, and it's just going to pass all that back to us. And that's all what this code is supposed to be doing here. It's not even code, it's just the prompt is doing. And again, we also give it the date mapping just so it's aware of when Tuesday is. And so it doesn't try to accidentally tell you, oh yeah, Tuesday the 22nd. Well, Tuesday is not the 22nd. this next coming week is the 27th. So if I told it to do Tuesday, it better return an answer of the 27th for me. And so that's what that mapping is for. All of that is then sent into the Slack node. The message from the bot, I should say, is sent to the Slack node. So make sure you set up your Slack credentials, resource message, operation send, send into a channel, pick the channel that you want. The message itself is going to be the output from that prior bot that we just generated an output for. And we're going to be responding to the timestamp of the message of the message that was received by Slack. And that'll put it into the thread. All right. We then have this information come into a set field node where we match up the session ID, and we create the new session ID that will be generated and put into our Postgres memory, as well as operating off of the next time this comes in through another Slack message to the bot. So we need to make sure we have a consistent session ID from here on out. And so we strip out that top level information, and we're going to put the thread ID. And the thread ID, the timestamp, is actually created when we have the bot send us the message. Because it's responding to us, that then generates the thread timestamp, and that's what we're going to be using for all of our memory for the bot from now on during this conversation. The text from the bot is included here as text. We have the user. The user is pulled from way back in the merge node, which is actually pulled from the code node, which is pulled from the Slack node, but I grab it from the merge node. It's the easiest place to grab it. Our previous conversation chain is calendar. Again, not necessarily truly important for this bot, but when you're adding this bot as a tool for another bot, then that's important to have the previous conversation chain. And the time added, we want to make sure that we log when this message is put into the system. So then we have a Postgres node. This Postgres node is going to upload our message, the human message, to the Postgres memory chat table that we have. So what you're going to do is connect your Postgres credentials, operations insert, schema is public, choose the table that you have set in order to converse with your bot. This is mine. And then we have the session ID. We're just pulling that from our set field node, json.session_ID. And that's, again, to make sure that all of our messages line up properly. And then the message that we're sending is type is human. Data, the content is the message that we sent originally through Slack. And we're grabbing it from the merge node. And we have all these extra dot replaces in order to be able to strip out any extra quotation marks or curly braces or anything else that might potentially break the upload into the Postgres memory. We need to make sure it's clean, that it actually gets in there. Otherwise, this thing breaks, and then your memory doesn't work. It's not so fun. So that's why we have all that. And we also add a time added so that the code node that comes before that merge node I talked about way back over here, we add that time added in order to be able to make sure that all of our previous messages are lined up in chronological order. All right, and then we have one more Postgres node here. And this one is, again, another insert public into our chat memory. Session ID would be the same session ID we just had. And this one I'm marking as a bot. I'll even change that to just bot. It's normally my Roger bot system that I have. I'm giving away this tool kind of as a standalone tool. And so what we do is we just take the message that it sends us through Slack, and we strip out any offending extra marks. At the time added, it's going to be responding to a user, and we log that just so we make sure that everybody, if for some reason somewhere down the road you need to make sure and pull data of what the bot has been telling you, I make sure to log the user ID as well. And then previous conversation chain would be calendar. We're trying to calendar something here. All right, so that's the check availability path. The next path is if there is a solo message that solo event coming in. So again, hey bot, I want to schedule for Tuesday to read my library book on my own. That's a solo event. We don't need any extra checking for attendees emails or anything like that. We're just going to go straight into scheduling it. And we're just going to come here and we're going to give it our current message, what we're currently telling it to do, our previous conversations, as well as the start time and day and duration of the event. And that's pretty much all you need in order to be able to create an event in a calendar. And so that's all we give it. Our system prompt pretty much reflects all that. It's receiving the previous conversations, our current message, our time and day, and our duration. It's going to call our calendar agent, not necessarily just our Google Calendar. I have a calendar agent, which I'll also give you guys as well. And it's going to send information to it. It needs to give it our original message, any additional notes that it might have that the calendar agent might need, the title for the event, the duration of the event, the date the event is supposed to be, the start time and the end time, as well as create a description that'll go onto the calendar event itself. And then it passes all of that information to the calendar, and then it'll return back a response to us simply saying that here's the information for the event, I've made it. All right, and so the tool itself is a tool call. I'm pulling a tool. You'll want to name, you'll want to make sure you reference the proper calendar tool. And the calendar tool itself is pretty simple. It's basically just a whole bunch of Google Calendar tools attached to a single agent. And so if you really, really wanted to, I guess you could just use a Google Calendar node here as a tool, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you a whole extra agent. All right, and so what it does is it then will pass all that information through the same kind of response process that the check availability did. So it's going to be a Slack node here. You make sure you connect the correct bot, resources message, operation send into a channel, pick the correct channel. The message that we're sending is the output from the previous agent. And then we match it up with the timestamp. And so make sure it goes into the correct thread. And then we set all the same fields as above, all that same information. And that goes into the Postgres memory. We first upload the human memory, human message into the memory, and then the bot memory gets put in as well. I'll go ahead and remove the Roger aspect. All right, so let's go ahead and save. Now, if you do have attendees, it seems complicated. It isn't. Just think of it as kind of 3 branches. We have our first branch up here, which is checking for emails. We have our second branch down here, which is checking if you want a Zoom meeting. And then our third branch, which is this set right here in the middle, is either scheduling a Zoom meeting or it's scheduling just a calendar event. So what happens is after the bot up here did kind of its initial assessment, determined that you're trying to schedule with an AI, with attendees, it comes down here, and this agent here is going to search your Google Calendar, not your Google Calendar, your Google Contacts for the individuals that you've mentioned in your messages to see if it can't get their email addresses. So what we're doing is it's an AI agent, it's a tool agent. We're giving it our current message, we're giving it our previous conversations, and the attendees that the agent previously up here, this guy up here, was able to pull from your message. So it's going to pull those names. It's then going to search your Google Contacts. All right, and so what we're doing here is we have your Google Contacts. You want to make sure you set up your credentials in here. Just create new credentials if you don't have it set up yet. We're doing a resource contact. Operation is get many. We're going to just limit to 100. If you have 100 of the same person in there, God help you, I guess, right? Because it's not going to find the right person. But I have a path for that specific situation. And the fields that we're looking for are names. And so that's why we pulled the attendee names previously. All right. And what it's going to do, it's going to output a structured output JSON using this system prompt over here. And the system prompt is going to output, and where is it? It's looking for, here it is. So it's going to determine whether we are ready to schedule. If we are ready to schedule, that means we have all of the emails that we need in order to be able to send out the Google Calendar invite. So it's going to match up all of the different names that you have. So you can say Jim and Mike and Tom and Sally. And if it can't find emails for Jim and Mike and Tom and Sally, all of them, it's going to set it not ready. If it finds them all, then it does. All right. And so let me go ahead and change this to like just fake at fakeemail.com. So you don't have my email in there. And so it'll put an array of all of the resolved contacts that it has or can find or doesn't have. And so for Jim and Tom and Mike and Sally, or whatever I said, it'll have each of these objects here with their input name and a contact email if it's able to find them, or if you give it to the bot. And if it's not able to find it, it will output a reason why there's an error, that it's not yet ready to mark this as ready. Okay. And so that's what it does. It just pulls it's going to pull from Google Contacts for each of the names, try to find it, try to match it up specifically. So when you're either make sure you don't have a lot of people in your Google Contacts or give it a full name so it can find the right person. All right, and so here's the kind of options that it has. If it's able to find the person and their email, there's no error. If you give it the email, it's not going to give an error. If it finds it in the Google Contacts, no error. If it finds one match, so one, because John Smith as an example, and it does not find an email for John Smith, it will not output an email because there's nothing there, right? It's going to say contact found but missing email. If it finds multiple John Smiths, the error will be multiple matches. If it doesn't even find the name and you don't give it an email, it's just no match found at all. And if you supply an email, but the email finder, the Google Contact, failed to pull properly, it's still going to give you an error, but that's really just for your records. It's not going to matter because it has the email here. It's still going to mark it as ready because everybody has an email. All right, and so it's always going to search Google Contacts even if you give it the email. I have found that if you skip the Google Contacts for any particular reason, if you even it breaks the whole system. So I have it pull regardless, but it's going to search through your previous messages and your current messages for any emails that it can find first. That's the first place it's going to look, and then it goes to Google Contacts. Okay, this then comes through this if node. If the if node sees that the ready to schedule item that we had just discussed is marked as not ready, it's going to come up this top path. And this top path is going to create a response for you that's going to send a message to you in Slack. So again, here's our current message to the bot, our past message, and did we find the contact or not? So it's going to take all of the resolved contacts, so all of the names that it has, and as well as their emails and their errors, and it's going to give it to the bot. And the bot is then going to generate a message to you saying, hey, we see that we have the name, but we found the contact, but we're missing the email. Can you give me the email for this person so that we can properly create the event? And that's all this does, is it checks whether there's errors or missing emails. And if so, then it just lets you know. And again, all the same messaging and memory upload that we had for all the other paths. So I'm not going to go through that. All right. Now, if you've given it all of the emails, and if you've given it everything that it needs, it's got the time, the date, and everything else, the next question that it's going to ask is whether or not, way back here in this agent up here, whether Zoom was set to yes, no, or ask. All right. And so if it's set to yes, it's going to come up here. It's going to come to this path and create a Zoom link, and we'll go over that in a second. If it's no, it comes down this path, and we'll go over that in a minute. But if it's ask, because you just didn't even mention Zoom at all, it's going to, before it tries to schedule anything, it's going to come here. So it's just a switch, three items. So back from the AI agent, Zoom meeting set to yes, no, or ask. So it goes down the path. And so if it's ask, it's going to come here. And just like with the email, the missing email path, basically we just get all this information and it's going to go, hey, we've got all this information. Would you like to schedule a Zoom meeting? Is this intended to be a Zoom meeting or something else? Please let me know. All right. So, and it needs to make sure that it mentions the day and time for the meeting. Everybody's supposed to be present. And then it's supposed to ask, is this a Zoom meeting? And that's pretty much all this does. And then it sends it to Slack, and then it uploads all the data into your Postgres memory, just as before. All right, so if it's marked as yes, you're supposed to have a Zoom meeting. We then have Zoom credentials. We have a Zoom node. So if you don't yet have your Zoom credentials set up, I have another video. I'll link in the description below on how to set up your Zoom credentials and essentially a Zoom bot to be able to use Zoom. But your resource is meeting, operation is create. The topic is going to be the title of the event that the AI agent way over here created. All right. And then our duration is the duration that we've established, as well as the start time that we've established, the start time and day. And this has to be set in that format that I specifically mentioned that this agent over here had to do. All right. So let me see if it's in the output parser now. It has to be set a year. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Yeah, year dash dash day, hour, minute, second. It has to be set like that for Zoom. If it's not, it's this node will break. All right, but that's all it does. It'll create the Zoom meeting URL, then gets passed into an agent that's designed to just respond to you. So it gives your current message and your past messages, all of the information about the events, as well as the Zoom meeting link. And then it'll respond to you, let you know that, hey, here's all the inputs that it's going to get, and it's going to output. It's going to also put it onto your calendar. Oh, I totally forgot this one does that. It puts it onto your calendar first, and then it responds to you, because it's not enough to just have a Zoom meeting link hanging in the ether, right? You want this on your calendar. So it's going to do a tool call. It takes all of the information, just like we did kind of previously. Where was that? Up here under the solo path. It takes all that information. In addition to, it also gets the attendee information. So it's going to pass their emails as well as the Zoom link, which is going to include in the location. And then it will call the calendar agent. It'll call the specific calendar event with attendees in that agent. And it'll create the calendar event, put it on your calendar, and send everybody an invite as well, because they're all going to be added to that event. And so that way they get the Zoom link. All right, and then once that one's done, again, it's calling the calendar tool. So again, remove the Bradford. No, you don't need that. You just make sure to match up the workflow with the specific calendar agent download that I'm going to give you. And all this information here is going to be set in the calendar agent. Just make sure that you have the AI automatically pass it. So we have original text, additional notes, title, duration, scheduled date, start time, end time, description, and location. All that needs to be passed to the model. It should already be set in the models when executed by another workflow node. Just make sure that the model properly passes it. Just click the little AI button that appears over here. So it's this button here. Just make sure this is turned on. Okay. Then once that's done, it's going to respond to you that, hey, the Zoom meeting has been properly created on this day time. It sends you a message via Slack, and then it uploads all that information to your Postgres memory just as before. All of these kind of endings for the bots are just the reply to you part and then upload to memory, and it's all the same. When I say all the same, I mean there is some slight differences in the specific node that it's calling. So this one's calling user 1. That's this one here. This one's calling user 13. Yeah, that's this one here. All right, so it makes sure it pulls from the right information. All right, and if you don't do a Zoom call, then it's pretty much the exact same as this path here, except it just doesn't have the Zoom node. So again, it's giving it all that calendar information, the event information. I don't know why we have a Zoom link. Don't need a Zoom link, but it has the attendee information. It's going to take all that information, put it all in here, include a location. If you have a location, maybe you mentioned a call, whatever, it's going to just put that in there. So physical address, phone call, or empty string. And then it passes all that to the tool. The tool is going to create the event. The event is then going to pass back, and then the agent will message you, let you know that the event has been created. So as you can see, this calendar scheduling workflow keeps track of who and what you're trying to accomplish to make sure that the event you want created is what gets put onto your calendar every single time. Whether your events are on your own, with team members, have Zoom meetings or not, this workflow handles all of it seamlessly and effortlessly right within your Slack or other communication platform. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like and share the video, because it really does help get that information out there. Also, be sure to click the link in the description below to download today's workflow, as well as our additional calendar agent. You'll be able to find all that information in our free school community. And as always, I'm Bradford Carlton. Let's automate your success together.